Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Risk with Dr. Naveen Agarwal. Each week, we talk about a topic related to risk management of medical devices in a very casual and informal way. This is not a webinar or lecture. Rather, our goal is to talk about key topics and challenges in a very informal way and share best practices. I'm your host, Naveen Agarwal, and I'm the principal and founder at Achieve, where my personal mission is to help you achieve success in risk management. My guest in this episode is Carolyn Blandford. In this conversation, we are focusing on the success factors for risk practitioners in the medical device industry from a career management point of view. Now, Carolyn is the best person to talk to because she transitioned from a scientific role to a quality risk management role in her past career, and now she's a consultant in this space. We are also discussing how risk practitioners as individuals can shape the quality culture of their organizations. We had this conversation as part of our weekly LinkedIn Live discussions in front of a live audience. You're about to hear a recording of our discussion. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our weekly Let's Talk Risk conversation. And today's topic, guys, is a very interesting topic because a little bit we are talking on a personal level. We are talking about, on a personal level, what it takes to succeed as a risk practitioner in our medical device industry. And we're going to hear from Carolyn, her experiences, the challenges she had to overcome and the lessons she learned. And we are also going to talk about how, as risk practitioners, we can shape the quality culture of our organization. So this is going to be a slightly different conversation. I hope you enjoy it. With that, Carolyn, I'm so excited to welcome you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Naveen. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm happy to see that there's a good audience here that wants to know more about this.
Yeah, so Carolyn, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you started your career as a scientist, coming from a technical background, and you transitioned into a risk management role. Tell us a little bit about your background and how that came about.
Perfect. So I started out, I have a background in microbiology and cell and molecular biology. I was fortunate enough to have a very long career with an IVD manufacturer, starting out on project teams, building new products, contributing to verifications, validations, things like that. And from there, I started learning more about the business, what it takes to be in regulatory, what it takes to be in quality, what are those roles, how do they contribute overall? And I started reaching out to those individuals. Tell me what you do. Help me understand how you contribute to the project teams. How does my work impact you? How do you impact me? So I started building up a network within the organization. I had some differences in my career path, but ultimately I found my way back into quality. I find quality very refreshing. I am really wanting to know the why behind the what. So within my career, I had a very wonderful set of mentors that really helped me understand why we implement the procedures that we have in place, what came from those requirements, and how we apply those to our work. Through that, I grew into a quality manager. So I had a small team of individuals underneath me. I fully recognize that I was not the smartest person in the room, that I have a team of individuals to rely on. We were focused on pre-market product development. And the learning continued from there. This is the point in time where I got more deeply involved in risk management. I love the story that risk management can tell. I love the direction, the guidance, the aid that it can provide in a product development process, but also thinking big picture. Once that product is on the market, how do you keep that risk management file up to date? Where can you partner with your team members, with the individuals that are now taking on that file, and make it something that's easy for all to understand and worthwhile and able to be maintained.
So, of course, what you're pointing out here is very important, that risk is a team sport, right? We have always heard about
Correct.
that. We can't do it alone. We have to work with others. What I was actually curious to ask you is, how did this come about for you? You said you started in a technical role, and gradually you found yourself reaching out more and more to colleagues and learning about their work, how your work impacted their work. Did it happen kind of spontaneously, or you also mentioned mentoring?
Yes.
How did the switch occur? Because many times as technical people, and I'm one of those people, we are working sort of by ourselves or in a very small team, right? So I'm very curious to hear from you, how did that switch happen for you?
In reality, I was in the right place at the right time. We had an external inspection, and as a quality manager, I was defending our risk management practices. It was not a successful defense, and we had an observation come out of that. In our back room, I had a very passionate discussion with our VP of manufacturing, and that blossomed into, we need a new role within the organization. So I had a wonderful opportunity to develop what that role was, the strategy, the short-term strategy, the long-term strategy. And I think this is important to recognize that the quality, the culture of quality in this organization was very strong. So it was very easy to have these conversations with the executives to give them a very clear path forward of how we were going to manage our risk management processes a little bit differently.
Wow. So I think it showed a lot of initiative on your part to notice, hey, things are not going well. And you had that conversation, which led the VP to believe that, hey, we need a new role. And I want to clarify, is that something like you found yourself into that new role, or you proposed it and someone else, started doing that? Was that your introduction to risk management?
It was definitely my introduction to risk management. What I've found over the course of my career, and even in the consulting world, when I tell people I love risk management, their first response is shock. And they are very grateful that there is someone that enjoys doing it. Risk management is inherent to all of our roles, whether you're in regulatory, quality, R&D, but it's not something that we spend a lot of time on. It's another activity that develops a set of deliverables. And I feel that having someone in the role to take charge, to lead the discussions, to document the risk in the right way. Again, let's tell that full story from what your situation is, what we're trying to deal with, to your controls, and making sure that those controls are effective later on is so important. I don't see a lot of risk management roles within companies. It's not to say that they don't have those individuals, but I think a lot of the onus is on the project team members to adopt the processes and procedures and try to understand how to implement the requirements.
Yeah. But I'm also hearing you say is that it's okay to say, hey, status quo is not acceptable, and reach out and say, look, we need a new role. And this is what the new role is supposed to do. This is how we can bridge the gap. And this is how we can integrate risk with everything. So what I'm hearing you say is that there's an opportunity for us to actually take that initiative and, pitch this to our senior leaders. Is it not correct?
That is correct. You do need to make sure that you have a voice with that. And I think the biggest thing behind that, before you get to that step, is the desire and the passion. Yeah. If again, to understand the why behind the what, yes, we may have procedures that have requirements, and this is how we do things. This is how we have done things. But why are those requirements there? Where do they come from? Let's understand the ISO standards. Let's network. Naveen, this platform is so amazing. As we talked about before this call started, 5 years ago, these types of discussions weren't readily held within the industry. And I think platforms like these are so important to individuals to understand and push forward the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of opportunity here for us to understand what others are doing, how they're applying the standards, the requirements, the regulations, what feedback they're getting, and how we can improve overall. And then we can take those thoughts and those guidances and bring that back into our organization to say, this is what industry is doing. Let's look at what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it on par with that? The concept of state of the art. Are we doing everything that we can?
Yeah. And we're learning from each other. So coming back to our initial conversation here is that we should feel encouraged and empowered to take the initiative and say, if things are not going well, what else could be done? Now, you made a very key point. You said in your organization, you already had a good culture of quality, and it was very easy for you to have these conversations with senior leaders. Many people would say, look, we struggle with that. We struggle with how to reach senior executives and share how we are feeling and what the potential solutions are. So I think I want to talk about a little bit on how we can shape that conversation as individual practitioners. Do you have any ideas or any thoughts based on your experience?
Yes. I have a very different visibility into things from a consulting perspective. That is what I currently do now. And I believe that things have to start small. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to find challenges and difficulties in several parts of an organization. It's more challenging to find the solutions. So if we can start small and say, this is a challenge that I'm facing, I want to start to figure out where I can be more impactful, how we can fix this. Talk to your management staff, your direct support system. Make sure that they have the backing, and then just show the impact that you have for those small steps. Start small.
It starts small, and build a reputation of producing results, credibility,
Correct.
Collaboration, working with people. And then you might find yourself a little bit in a better position to pitch a new idea, pitch a new proposal. But the point here is also don't wait that long. Get into the habit of pitching and practicing. And so what? Your ideas might get shot down a couple of times, but don't take it personally. Go refine them. And I think what it tells me personally is we have a role to play, and we just can't be looking all the time up. Hey, something needs to come from down. Recently I did a poll on LinkedIn, Carolyn. I'm going to share that briefly with you. I asked a question to colleagues, say, who do you believe is responsible for building a quality culture? And I gave them the options like the CEO, quality leadership, quality staff, and everyone. Guess what the answer was? 80%, more than 80% of the people chose everyone, right? However, if you talk openly with people, they say it has to start with the CEO. That's what I keep hearing. Yes, it has to start with the CEO. But what I'm hearing you say is that all of us have an opportunity to shape it. We just need to do it slowly in small steps and not say like, it's going to happen overnight. Does that sound about right as far as I'm understanding right now?
Yes, we all have. So in the medical devices, we all have a responsibility to the patient first.
Yeah.
So you have to keep that in mind as you're going through the activities that you have on a daily basis. I think risk management is an absolutely wonderful tool to help frame out the challenge that you're facing and find appropriate solutions and look at the impact overall. So again, it's either within the context of a medical device safety risk analysis or using those concepts to build out risk for a business perspective or something else.
Wow, I think this is such a brilliant insight. I want to repeat it once again so I get it. What I'm hearing you say is that since I think risk cuts across the board, it provides us a framework to provide the context behind the problem we are trying to solve, an organizational or a culture problem we are trying to solve. It's not a functional issue. It's not a department issue. But when we look at risk as sort of that contextual background, I think it allows us a little bit more opportunity to have a more sort of, engaged conversation, right? It's not like you are coming at it from your function.
Correct. Absolutely. Everyone has to have a voice.
Yeah. Wow, this is fascinating, guys. And I think I'm going to start opening up the floor for you to participate. You know how it goes. If you're joining for the first time, I think you should have a button on your screen to raise your hand virtually. I think now a couple of folks are requesting to speak. And guys, you don't have to wait for one conversation to be over. Just raise your hand. I can bring many more people on this virtual stage, and let's just have a good chat about this. So Ed, you are on first. Please unmute your mic and share what you have in mind.
Okay, Naveen, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, I just got off the plane a little while ago, coming home from Washington, D.C., and I had an excellent meeting with the Standards Working Group for Risk Management this week. And this conversation kind of fits in with some of the things we were talking about there.
Okay.
But there's an event coming up next week in D.C. The International Medical Device Regulators Forum is meeting. The U.S. now is going to take the leadership role for the IMDRF for the next few years. One of the things on the agenda is to revise and update the GHTF risk management guidance document, which was released in 2005. So it's about due, way overdue for revision. And of course, technology has moved forward since then. We're talking about AI and a lot of software stuff. There's just so many things going on in the world right now in this area. And this leadership role we're talking about here, these conversations we need to have, we need to get our thoughts from our companies, what we're moving on and some technologies we're advancing, those kinds of things, and see how that fits into the global view, because regulations are coming out, standards are coming out. We need to have an opportunity to influence those so that they don't cause us some difficulty in developing our processes and procedures. So I know 62304, which is the software development process standard, is now under revision. They're developing that. IEC 60601, the electrical safety standard, they're working on the 4th edition of that now. They have delayed 13485. There was a survey taken online that a lot of people participated in a few months ago.
Yeah.
And the information there kind of led them to postpone that activity for a little bit. But anyway, we've got our friends at the FDA now changing our quality system regulation, which is going to directly impact our procedures and processes in our companies that we need to have conversations about.
Yeah.
And so there's so much going on, but we need everybody to think about how they can contribute and provide information and direction. So that's what I wanted to bring up this morning.
Thank you, Ed. And I hope you had a safe trip back home. And thank you for sharing all these developments with us. And that's, by the way, guys, one advantage of our forum here, right? We hear from everybody what's going on, and you can be aware. The key point again here is this: as individual practitioners and as members of our community, we have an opportunity to be aware of these developments, contribute to them, and then bring the best in our own organizations, play a leadership role. So thank you for sharing that, Ed, and I hope you guys will feel encouraged by that. Bijan, you are next. Please go ahead and share what you have in mind.
Hi, Naveen.
Hi.
Hi. Well, Carolyn, first I wanted to say it was so nice to hear you talk about your experiences. And I always love it when I hear somebody says, I love risk management. Because it doesn't happen very well. So I'm so happy about that. And with respect to some of the things you talked about, it's also been my experience that one of the issues in organizations, particularly bigger organizations, is that there's not a pervasive belief that risk management is everybody's job. And because they're busy trying to make the part work, if it's a design engineer or a test engineer, they're busy with that part. But I think that if this attitude that risk management is everybody's job becomes more pervasive, it will create hooks in place in their work that not only will make the work overall more efficient, but it will create a more robust risk management process.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree with that too. I've had experiences where we were looking at our entire QMS. Where are the risks being looked at? What decisions are we making off of our risks? And it was very, very appreciated that there was someone that these individuals could go to really look at that risk. It's not just identifying that we have a risk. It's looking at the effectiveness of that risk. We have a CAPA. Yes, we have a risk documented. That's not going far enough. They just don't know how to look at risk in that way. And we also had an opportunity to bring the effectiveness of our risk management process as a whole throughout the QMS to our management review. We were developing KPIs around our risk, having everybody look at risk a little bit differently, how it was integrated into our quality management system and driving the decisions in the right way.
Yeah. And Bijan, I want to really emphasize your point too, is that we could help people see how risk affects their work. Not necessarily that they have to sort of do more work for risk, but how it might, affect their work. And maybe we are all part of it. And that's what I think you're trying to say is, we are all involved. We are all responsible. And it's not just one person's job, right? Guys, fascinating conversation. I want to really encourage you to be a part of this. I know many of you in the audience might think, hey, I'm too new, too young, too inexperienced, and look at all these people with many, many years of experience. I tell you, you have so much to share. Please don't hesitate. The question you might be thinking about may be on somebody else's mind, and it's all in a very friendly, safe environment. So I encourage you to raise your hand and be a part of this conversation. So I'll wait for you to request that, but let's keep going. Let's keep going, guys. So, Carolyn, go ahead, Ed.
I want to build on something you just said.
Okay.
You and I and everybody here started with no experience.
Yes.
And we grew and we learned. And you've heard me say this, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm still learning. So even though you don't have much experience, when I joined the Risk Management Standards Committee, I didn't have experience in risk management except for having led a meeting. And they put me on the International Standards Committee to represent my company. And I was stunned sitting in the back of the room. So all of you there, you have an opportunity to join in even at the beginning level and learn from participation and development. So don't let the fact that you don't have any experience delay. If you're interested, jump in.
That's a great point, Ed. Thank you for sharing, first of all, your experience and coming from you. I know you personally. You have done so much work. This frank acknowledgement that, hey, we are all starting from somewhere. We have something to contribute. We have so much to learn. So thank you for sharing that and encouraging us, Ed. I appreciate that. So let's continue, guys. And again, I would urge you guys, we still have about 5 minutes. Let's make the best use of this time. If you are a risk practitioner trying to shape the culture, trying to have people, pay attention to risk, what challenges are you facing or what things you have tried that have worked for you? We would love to hear that from you. Carolyn, I want to continue. Okay, Prashant, great. I'm glad you are requesting to speak. I'm going to bring you up. Again, guys, don't wait for our conversation to be over. Just raise your hand and I'm going to bring you up. Prashant, please go ahead and share what you have in mind.
Yeah, my question is that in the pharma now, recently some manufacturers are now doing the risk assessment. They are new to the risk assessment. And now recently the annex have risk assessment with an annual revisit, or they have to perform frequent revisit to the risk assessment. How they cope with that?
Got you. Prashant, you have a pretty significant echo, so I'm going to make sure that people hear your question. You are working with risk management in the pharma space, and you are wondering if it has to be like an annual exercise or it should be done in an ongoing basis. I tell you, you are in good luck because we have great people on this forum today. Carolyn, I'm going to start with you first, and Ed and Bijan, I'm going to invite you to also to share your thoughts. So go ahead, please.
As someone who loves risk management, I would definitely look at the risk management files on a particular frequency. Is if there's no guidance from a regulatory perspective or industry perspective, it needs to be determined within the organization. In my opinion, and I'm not as familiar with the pharma aspects, but just to make sure that anything that you put in place for risk controls and any information you're getting back from your post-market is still appropriate.
Bijan, go ahead. I'm going to invite you first, and then Ed, I'll ask you to share your thoughts.
Okay.
Bijan, please unmute your mic and share if you have it.
Yeah, I agree with Carolyn. I think that as far as the cadence of review, you can't do it every day, so you have to choose maybe certain milestones within your development process where you revisit things. I mean, I don't know if in pharma you do failure modes and effects analysis. You probably do PFMEAs, but if there is any changes to your manufacturing process, you want to revise your PFMEAs, so that would be a good marker when to do that.
Perfect. Thank you, Bijan. Go ahead, Ed.
Okay. I'm real familiar with this. There's a guidance document for pharma called ICH Q9. The first revision was released in January last year. It was developed from the risk management standard that we use in medical devices, 14971, and we actively participated, not me personally, but one of my associates, in the development of that document. It's really useful, and as Bijan indicated, pharma focuses more on manufacturing risks and not so much on the development of the drug area. So there's a lot in Q9 about doing FMEA, as Bijan indicated, and some other techniques to assess the impact of the manufacturing process on the quality of the drug coming out, and also on the availability of the drug. So if there's any impact to the process that delays the ability to get the drug, that's another risk area that's discussed there. So I would get a hold of Q9. Now, another good piece is the ICH website, which has all their documents on there. For Q9 has some training activities that are free, online, available. So if you'll get, Prashant, those training things are going to be a big help in getting you moving in that direction. Now, those of us that are on the device side need to pay attention to the drug side too, because there's something called combination products out there.
Yeah.
Which are drug-device combinations in many cases, and we do have to look at the interaction risks. Now, this is another thing that people hadn't thought of, but the interactions between the drug and the device, what kind of chemical effect on the barrel of the needle could come from the drug? Is there some risk that would be implemented, and going the other way, some effect on the drug that would come from a device. So there's all those kinds of things to think about.
Yeah.
So it's a great area, Prashant, and I think I give you some things that will lead you in that direction.
Thank you. Thank you. That's wonderful, guys. And we have run out of time. So I'm going to close very soon. Carolyn, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think about, hang on, I will never say no to somebody who raises their hand, even if it's the last moment. So I'm going to invite Roger. Hopefully, Roger, you are on. Please share briefly what you have in mind.
Just, again, thinking about how you establish a cadence on some of these things. Mm-hmm. Even if companies don't have a risk management cadence, I've seen it combined with a monthly manufacturing review, which a lot of companies do. And of course, they're mainly focused on their production KPIs and how we are doing as a manufacturing group. But usually the ones I've been involved in, you bring in R&D, you bring in quality representatives, and maybe they're the ones with maybe more of a focus on risk management, and also the post-market people. So as part of these reviews, it wasn't so tightly focused on just the manufacturing of the product, but also on how is that product performing in the field, gives people a chance to talk about what's going on, and usually manufacturing-related CAPAs that are being worked, production improvement projects that are going on. Yeah. So if somebody even can foresee a risk in something we're thinking of doing on the manufacturing line, some people can speak up. But I guess in my experience, I'm used to that being kind of integrated into those other meetings, which are held on a regular cadence.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, it's part of the whole process, not something separate. Thank you for sharing that, Roger. So, Carolyn, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to just collect your thoughts and share with us 2 or 3 key takeaway messages. In the meantime, guys, a couple of announcements. First, today is International Women's Day. So let's take a moment and appreciate and recognize all the wonderful colleagues that we work with, particularly in QA/RA organizations. We have a lot of women colleagues with us, very, very smart, very capable. We learned so much from you. Thank you so much for being a part of this industry, and thank you for all your contributions. Second, guys, next week, there's a slight scheduling change. Instead of Friday, we will be meeting on Thursday, same time, 11 a.m. And this change is only for next week because I have a scheduling conflict. So the announcement went out today for the next week's event, which is also going to be very interesting. We're going to talk about top 3 medtech trends in 2024 that we as risk practitioners should be aware of. So please adjust your schedule. If you're interested, come join us on Thursday. So Caroline, with that, I'm going to open the floor and give you just a couple of moments to share some key takeaway messages.
Perfect. Thank you, Naveen, and thank you for having me this week. As far as success in roles and risk management, 2 big things step out to me. How can you be a better partner? There's a lot of people without very in-depth knowledge of risk management and how the story can be told. So think about how you can be a better partner to them, help them out, help them through either explaining or documenting, and really think about where that information goes when you are finished with it. Think about the communications within the organization, how the organization can utilize that knowledge going forward to make the best decisions possible.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Guys, I hope you had fun. Please use the emoji icon to let us know how you're feeling, how it went today, whether you liked it. There's no dislike button, which I love. Carolyn, can you believe it? There is no thumbs down in the emojis. I love it. Thank you so much, guys. This is wonderful. I'm glad you are finding it useful. I wish you a very good weekend ahead, and we look forward to connecting with you next Thursday. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.